What's going on, guys, and welcome to Anteiku Nation, where we game and we know things. And today I want to start off a new segment with the new Vanguard Overdress trial deck, starting with, you guessed it, Apex Ruler. Now, the new Toyo Abada trial deck is actually pretty powerful. There's a lot of modifications that you can make with this deck going forward in the booster set 1, Genesis of the 5 Greats, and I'd like to touch on that. But if you'd like to skip ahead, there is a timestamp in the description below. But in the meantime, guys, please hit that like button if you like this video, smash that subscribe button, and click the bell so that you can be notified each and every time that I upload a brand new video. Alright guys, so this is going to be my first official TCG box opening deck profile. I'm not sure what you want to categorize it as, but we're going to be looking today at Cardfight Vanguard's Overdress Start Deck 3 Toyo Abada Apex Ruler Starter Deck. I just got all these in just this week, all 5 of them. I want to start off with this one because this is becoming a very big favorite of mine. Not intentionally, mostly unintentionally, but I really like what it does. But what I want to just do is go over the contents of this box, what's in it, go over the units, the triggers, and the orders, and what you can expect from this. And then the other segment of this video, guys, I will post the time stamp in the description, so if you want to skip over this, you already know all this stuff, you're not really looking forward to that, you want to see the cards that you can use in order to modify this deck to get the most bang for your buck and be the most competitive deck that can be between this and the booster set 1 Genesis of the 5 Greats. So you can go ahead and skip on to that segment. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this, guys. This starter deck is really fun. It's pretty powerful for what it is. Just out of the box for somebody looking to get into Vanguard. If you're not looking for any like mind-bending combos, this deck is pretty straightforward. It does what it does. It deals out attacks and it focuses on grade 3s. There's not really many grade 2s at all in this deck. But when you're opening the box up, you'll notice first off, guys, that like the only thing you see is the deck and the playmat, because every starter deck comes with the playmat, so it tells you the triggers, you know, what their values are, and then it gives you the layout of what the field looks like. So, you know, typical stuff. What you won't find, though, is a comprehensive rule guide. What they have done now is they've, you know, kind of advanced their technology a little bit, if you will, and they put a barcode on the back of the starter deck box that you can scan with your phone and be able to access all of the advanced rules, standard rules, the different formats, and all of that. So if you're looking for anything in particular, looking for questions and answers to things that you may not understand, and you're like, oh, I don't understand this, I don't get this, and I don't recognize this, then you can look to this barcode and go ahead and pull up that site. It does say that it does have 2 new mechanics, the ride deck and the over trigger, which is a new trigger they introduced here in Overdress, as well as, you know, you can see typical information with, like, it's a start deck, tells you what nation, then it tells you the contents of what's inside the box. So, and it gives you a little brief history of what Vanguard is. So that is all that you'll initially get out of this box. Let's go ahead and look into the content. So if we look first, let's look at the ride deck. Okay, the main unit and what this deck revolves around is going to be Apex Ruler Bastion. He is our grade 3. He's going to be our main focus of this deck. So Vanguard, during your turn, all of your grade 3 units get plus 2k. That's all across the board. So if you got a full board of grade 3s, well, now they're all pumped up by 2,000 apiece. That's pretty beefy. He has another cool ability, which is the whole shtick of this deck is going to be, once per turn at the end of the battle, that your drive check revealed a grade 3, you may discard a card from your hand, choose one of your rear guards, stand it, and it gets plus 10k. That is pretty significant. This deck can single-handedly do 4 attacks every turn once you're on this guy. That's pretty powerful. So let's look at the ride deck in general. Start off with our grade 0. This is going to be Knight of Heavenly Bow base, which is kind of funny because he's the base unit. He's just simple that when rode upon, if you went second, you draw a card. So this kind of keeps, you know, the balance in the game so that you aren't punished for what turn that you take. Next up, we've got Knight of Heavenly Sword Fort. When this unit is rode upon by Knight of Heavenly Spear Rogues, you may reveal 2 grade 3s from your hand, reveal the top card of your deck, call it to the rear guard. If it is a unit, you may put it in, or yeah, if it's a unit, you may call it. If it's not, then you put it in. So basically, if you reveal a order, then the order goes to the drop and you kind of whiff. He also has another skill on the rear guard. So once per turn, you may counterblast one, choose one of your grade 3 Vanguards, and he gets plus 5k. It's kind of a ability. It's not really that great. You're just using this guy just for the ride deck purposes only, to keep riding up to the next grade and just kind of get those little, bonuses as you go. Other than that, you don't really want to use this guy. Now, if you're just using the starter deck, then yeah, go ahead and run all copies of them. That's fine. Your grade 2's unit is going to be Knight of Heavenly Spear Rooks. So we just mentioned him in the previous card. So it says, when this unit is rode upon by Apex Ruler Bastion, aka our grade 3, you may reveal 3 grade 3 cards from your hand and draw a card. I do apologize, I do not know why that is wanting to be blurry. There we go. So, rear guard, during your turn, if you have 3 or more grade 3 units, which you should, then this unit gets boost and a plus 5k. So he becomes a 15k booster. Out of the starter deck, that's pretty significant until you can actually modify this deck. This is actually not a terrible card to have, as you are more than likely going to have 3 or more grade 3s on the field. Keep in mind though that the reveal 3 grade 3 cards from your hand, as you modify this deck, you want to be careful as to what you reveal to your opponent, because you don't want to give them too much information. So just be kind of mindful of what you actually show them what you have. But out of the starter deck box, I mean, everybody pretty much knows what you're running. So like, it's kind of standard. So you're not really giving away too much information they don't already know. But let's go ahead, and again, this is going to be our main focus. Going to be Bastion. This dude's awesome. Love the artwork. Let's go ahead and bring that in a little bit closer for you. Get that kind of bling going on a little bit. Yeah, he is awesome. There's other ways to build a Keter Sanctuary deck. We're not going to discuss that in this video. It's going to be for a completely different video, because this one's solely focused on the starter deck as well as Apex Ruler Bastion. So let's go ahead and look at the rest of the deck, if we would, guys. Look at the units real quick. So we do have 3 more copies of Bastion. We already know what he does. Then we have our next grade 3 unit, the Vehement Witch Romana, and I apologize if I said that wrong. When this unit attacks, you may counterblast 1, and this unit gets plus 5k until the end of turn. We've seen generic units like these in the past, where like, if it attacks, then you can counterblast 1, and it used to be like 3,000, so now like we're seeing these 5,000 bonuses, and we're seeing the standard power of like 13,000 for the unit. So I mean, this just generic, but it does what it does. It's a beat stick, so like, when it attacks, it gets plus 5k. So like, if you re-stutter, then you counterblast 1 again and get another plus 5k. So I mean, it's just a good beat stick. That's about it. Just a good beat stick. Next up, and this card will probably stay in the deck even well past the fact of when you start modifying it, because he's actually pretty darn good. And it's gonna be Knight of Broad Axe Rafluk, if I pronounced that correctly. So you put this unit into your soul, and you choose one of your grade 3 rear guards, and it gets plus 10k. I'm not really sure how often you will actually use that ability. It is kind of nice to be able to give a buff. So like, if you wanted to put like your witch or bastion dude on the rear guard, and maybe you wanted to pump them up, try to get out some extra shield out of their hand, then yeah, you can throw them into the soul and then pump one of them up to just, kind of strip some more cards from your opponent's hand. It's not a bad skill. I just don't know how often you will use said skill. Next up, because that was it for our grade 3s units anyway, we've only got 3 or 4 copies. Technically 3, because there's only 3 in the deck. The rest go into the ride deck. Or the other copy goes into the red deck, I should say. I apologize. Anyway, so it's going to be Knight of Heavenly Spear Rooks. Again, not much to say here. It's just during your turn, if you have 3 or more units, he gets, with that are grade 3s. I apologize. During your turn, if you have 3 or more grade 3 units, he gets boosted plus 5,000. So like, he's a decent booster. I mean, again, that's just what he does. He's a booster. There's not really much to say about that. Going into our grade 1s, they are kind enough to give us 4 PGs. These are the standard PGs, okay? This is old school PG, just discard a card from your hand and you cannot be hit from the main of that battle. So what you're going to want to do, guys, is get your hands on the PGs in booster set 1, Genesis of the 5 Greats, so that you can get the better PG They're all rare cards, so they're not too expensive. They run about $3 to $4 a piece. But the new ability on them is going to state that if you have 2 or more cards, you can discard a card to activate this shield. So basically, the new ones say that if you have 1 or less cards in hand, then you don't have to actually discard. And I think that's pretty freaking awesome. So yeah. Next up for our grade 1s is going to still be more of Knight of Heavenly Sword Fort. Again, until you can modify the deck, yeah, run them. Once you start modifying the deck, this guy comes out fairly quickly because his once per turn counter +1, choose one of your grade 3 Vanguards that gets +5k is kind of eh. There's other better ways to use your resources than on this guy's counterblast, and that 5k is kind of like eh, it's iffy. It's not that great, so yeah. Alright, next up we have Shadowbow Archer, Lizana. So she's just an AK vanilla. I was really surprised that we even are still getting these at this point in the game, but yeah, she's just a booster. There's nothing else you can say about it. She's pure vanilla. You got, what, three copies of her in the deck? And then lastly, we have this cool little gold paladin looking dude. So it's Platinum Wolf, so you may Soul Blast 2, and this unit gets +5k until the end of turn. So again, he just becomes like a 13k booster. Not too bad. Makes columns, helps strip more cards out of their hand when you're trying to get in and just, you know, deplete all the resources. So he does what he does. Now, let's look at our triggers real quick. All the new starter decks come with a generic universal, as I guess I will call it, over trigger. Over triggers are a new trigger to the game, so if you're not familiar, these are 1 per deck. I'm trying to get this focused in there for you. This camera is like hating me today. So anyway, let's just go over the damage phase. So like if you damage this thing out, it nullifies the attack. Well, not necessarily the attack, but it nullifies the damage. So this card will remove itself from the game. Your Vanguard will get 100 million power for the remainder of the turn. Yes, right, 100 million power. An absurd number, but nonetheless, it just basically says your Vanguard's not going to be hit for the remainder of the turn. This could turn the tide of a game. So like if you run out of heals and you still haven't seen this thing and you damage it, then it's going to protect you and keep you in the game for 1 more turn for that maybe miracle comeback. He does have an additional effect to choose one of your units and it gets +100 million until the end of turn. So not only I guess maybe your Vanguard, but maybe like I guess you can give this to another unit. I haven't looked at all the rules and stuff yet. So yeah, pretty cool unit. When you drive check it, you still get the 100 million. So I mean it's pretty boss. Does what it does. It's one of. Next up we have 4 crit. Alright. Crits are still in the game, crits are still good, even in Overdress. I would definitely suggest getting more of the crits that are in the booster set to further push for a damage to try to close out the game, put that pressure on your opponent. Crits are always good, especially in the TCG. Now, next up we have the front trigger. If you're not familiar what a front trigger is, this gives you +10,000 to the front row. So, whole front row, your rear guards, your Vanguard all get +10k. Big beefy turn when you actually drive check this thing, especially when you want to restand a unit, give it some more power, kind of push. Again, you're stripping numbers, stripping cards from their hands. This deck does need the draw power right now as it is, so running draws in this deck is not bad. We do have 4 draw. It is the weakest shield value, as you see, at 5,000 compared to the 15k shields you see here with like the heal triggers and crits and what have you. I'm really digging the art. Art is pretty awesome on this one, so it's kind of fine. If my camera would just cooperate with me today. I apologize, guys. We are running our standard 4 heals because we do like to stay alive in the game. That is kind of important. Do have a 15k shield value. Not like a whole lot to say about that, so yep. And finally, guys, for the parts of this deck of what comes in it are going to be 4 copies of the Order the Hour of Holy Judgment Cometh. So again, because you only run like 4 draws, you don't have a whole lot of way to draw in this deck, you are going to want to run this right now at a 4 of. I would suggest probably going down to like 2 or 3 of it once you can modify the deck completely. The cause is you can play this with Counterblast 2, you draw 2 cards, you choose one of your units, and it gets plus 5k until the end of turn. So you're netting some advantage by being able to draw into the cards. It's only a +1 really, because you're ditching this in order to draw 2 cards. So yeah, and then you get the plus 5k bonus, so it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm sure there's going to be better orders to come along in the future, but like the fact that this thing lets you draw cards in the deck that really needs to draw into resources for shield value purposes, yeah, running as a 4F right now. So again, that is all the contents that you will find inside of the starter deck for Apex Ruler, guys. We're about to go into the advancement section of this video, where I'm going to go over the cards that you can use to further advance and make a tournament ready viable deck. If you've watched up to this point, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Please don't forget to give this video a like and a subscribe. Helps me help you keep growing, making more content, guys, and we'll see you in the next segment. Okay guys, so for this segment of the video, we're going to talk about cards that you can actually get from the booster box Genesis of the 5 grades, and the cards that you can use to tweak, modify your structure deck, starter deck, however you want to phrase that, going forward to be competitive in your local tournaments. And first off, I want to go ahead and just start off with Grand Heavenly Sword Alden. Alden is really powerful and a well-deserved card in this deck, and it just flows so well with how the deck wants to perform. And as a matter of fact, it's actually going up in price on TCG just because all of a sudden, you know, episode 6 came out for Overdress, and the hype became real for this deck, and it's made me become a true fan of what this deck wants to do and how it performs. But anyway, let's just look at this real quick. So auto, when this unit is placed on rear guard, you may cause Counterblast 2 and Soul Blast 1 to choose a card from your hand and call it to a rear guard circle. If you call it a grade 3, then you draw 2 cards. Keep in mind that this could also be superior called, so like if you use the grade 2 from the ride deck and it just so happens to superior call this, then you can still get the ability off. The fact that you're just running a plethora of grade 3s, most of the time you're going to get that ability off the Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 1 to choose a card from your hand, call it to a rear guard. So if you call it a grade 3, more than likely you did, then you draw 2 cards. So I mean, this is like Pot of Greed, you know, on legs, or Pot of Greed, you know, just in body form, however you want to put it. It's really good. It's really good. So then it's got another skill on rear guard. When this unit attacks, if you have 3 or more grade 3 units, it gets plus 5k. So he's an ideal target for our Apex Ruler Bastion. He's just a very good card. So like when he attacks, you have 3 more, he gets plus 5k. All right. So then when he attacks again, he's going to get another plus 5k. So you'd want to target him with Bastion's effect that when he reveals a grade 3 during the drive check to stand something else up. So like it just, again, that synergy's so good with this card, and it's well deserved of the triple rare space that it occupies, as well as I think this thing is sitting around like $14-15 right now on TCG Player. So be sure and grab these before they're completely gone if you're looking to play Bastion. Up next, let's look at Knight of War Asado. So this card, let's click off of this for a second. This card is really cool. It gives me a very like Shadow Paladin type vibe, even though like we don't have clans anymore, but like if we still had clans, this card definitely would fit into Shadow Paladins. But he's really good at what he does. He's a grade 3. He has a rear guard ability, so that when this unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects. So this is going to keep this guy from being retired, imprisoned, you know, anything that's going to initially target. Now if they use an ability that targets something else, and then it's like, oh, and then pull another rear guard or imprison another rear guard, something like that, then yeah, they can kind of get around it in that sense. But for the most part, he's got a lot of staying power, and that's really good, really good. But his other skill is really powerful. So when this unit attack hits, you may counter charge 1 and soul charge 1. So it doesn't have to hit the Vanguard, okay? You could do some cute little things with this, like maybe you want to put him in the front row and you want to hit their front row rear guard, okay? Because then as long as it hits, you know, you take something out of theirs, then you get the soul charge and the counter charge, and that just fuels your other resources to be able to get your other abilities off. So you know, if you attack, you hit, you get the skill off, then maybe you restand them with Bastion, maybe you can get in another hit, then you get to, you know, soul charge, counter charge again. So maybe in Magical Christmas Land you get the skill off twice. But he's really powerful and definitely worth it. He is also sitting right now currently on TCG Player at about like 14 to 15. It's been fluctuating over the past couple of days, so keep your eyes out. Again, if you're looking to run Bastion, if you're looking to run Keter Sanctuary, this guy's definitely a big stable, worthy of the double rare spot. So yeah, make sure you pick those up. Next up is going to be our Over Trigger. We all know that the starter decks come with the generic universal Over Trigger. So each nation does have their own Over Trigger, as we all know. If you didn't, that's fine. Maybe you're new to the game, you're just trying to figure things out, and that's cool. So let's just look over the Over Trigger real quick. So it says you may only have one Over Trigger in the deck. When revealed as a, I'm going to go ahead and say damage, because this line of the text is pertaining to the fact if this thing was damaged. So when revealed as a trigger, remove that card. I wish it would say this card, just due to the fact that it is this card that you're going to be removing, and you draw a card and you choose one of your units, and for the remainder of that turn it gets 100 million power. So basically your Vanguard is not going to be getting hit. I like this in the defensive matter, because not only do we have heals and PGs and, you know, other ways to guard or protect ourselves now, but this gives you another way to nullify. Like maybe you hit this on your 6th damage. I mean, imagine that this was going to be the one that was going to be the game loser for you, and you hit this, all of a sudden you nullify that damage. I like that. It just gives you another way to kind of come back if you're having a very bad matchup. But let's look at the other effect. This is going to be the effect that happens if you drive check it. So the additional effect says until the end of turn you also perform drive checks for the battles of your rear guard attacks. So this is pretty cool, because you could still swing, you know, let's just say you swung with Alden or Fasado, and you know they got their ability off, and then you drive check into a grade 3, you restand them up, and all of a sudden your second drive check is going to be your Over Trigger. Then yeah, your Vanguard gets this big humongous, you know, power boost, or you know whatnot, I mean, or your other units, and then all of a sudden this thing goes off, and now those rear guards have twin drive. So it's really cool when this thing goes off. Very explosive, because then you go from just 2 drive checks to 6 drive checks, and you're still getting off like 4 attacks. I mean, if there's any other like Magical Christmas Land scenarios you guys can think of that maybe I'm not just looking at, this is just a generic, just, you know, quick look at the deck and some possible scenarios I'm trying to give you. This is really powerful. This is very powerful. The fact that you could potentially get 6 drive checks in a turn is crazy powerful, and especially in a deck that can restand its rear guard. You can actually potentially get 5. It depends if you run. Let's look at where is she? Right here, Divine Sister, Lepisto. So her ability says that when you drive check, your drive check reveals a trigger unit, you may counterblast 2, stand this unit, gets power plus 5,000. So imagine on the turn that you actually, if this thing was on the rear guard, and let's say you had Alden on the rear guard, and you swing with him and the Divine Sister, back called the Battle Sister, then you hit your Over Trigger, and you again, you know, you hit the grade 3, which chances are you probably will, because the deck runs mostly grade 3s. Morikawa would be proud. You're gonna be swinging for days. You get 5 friggin' attacks at that point, and you're getting like drive checks, and you're just doing like all the crazy dirty things, and it's super powerful when it goes off. I mean, how frequently will it go off? I can't say, because you know it's a one of in the deck, but that turn that it does is going to be super explosive. Next up, let's go ahead and click off of this real quick. We have Dark Strain Dragon. Again, this is another unit to me that calls back to Shadow Paladin. I do believe this would be Shadow Paladin if they still existed. So, rear guard. If you have 3 or more grade 3 units, cost Soul Blast 2, and all of your grade 3 units get boost until the turn. So, yeah, your field's going to be grade 3s. There's not really going to be any time if you do the super offensive version of this deck, the aggro version as I would call it, you're going to be running grade 3s for days. So like fulfilling the grade 3 requirement is going to be, you know, giggles. So Soul Blast 2, all your grade 3s get boost, so then that, you know, this kind of calls back to Fasado, so that when this unit attack hits, you may countercharge Soul Charge 1. So this just fuels, it fuels this card's cost, and then it fuels this card's cost, and it just helps keep the momentum going so that you can keep dishing out damage and boosting units and getting your abilities off. And while all of this is super aggro, like everything we've seen so far from all of this is aggro, we actually do have some defensive capabilities in actual Analyst Kokobeel. And I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. When I first saw Genesis of the 5 Greats and I was seeing the aggression that Keter had, I was like, you know, at first I was like, you know, they're gonna give us boost because and they did because like to me I was just like, okay, you got all these grade 3s, so how are you gonna boost? How are you gonna do that? Well, they answered that. Then I was like, okay, well, you've got all these grade 3s, you're gonna be low on shield values, so you're not gonna be sitting, you know, with all the shield in your hand. You're gonna have a whole lot of grade 3s that don't have any shield value. So they answered that. They gave us this unit, and I'm a big fan. One, it looks like an angel feather. The artwork is gorgeous, and she does what she does best in the sense is if your Vanguard is an Apex ruler Bastion, which you're running Bastion as a Bastion deck, yes, it's gonna be Bastion. This unit gets shield plus 5,000 for every 2 of your grade 3 units, including this unit. So I mean, she's going to be reaching pretty high in the shield values, and there's no cost. The only cost is that you have grade 3 units. So like all of a sudden you go from having no shield value to suddenly you have a pretty decent shield value that is probably going to at least save you, you know, from being killed off at least once or twice in the match, maybe 3 times, I don't know. She's pretty cool. I like her. I like what she does. It's a simple card. It just flows with how the deck wants to be with all the grade 3s, and she fits really, really nicely. She's super cheap. This card's not very expensive at all. Matter of fact, these are all cheap. You're looking at your money makers right now, guys, are going to be these 3. So Grand Heavenly Sword Alden, your Knight of War Damage Fasado, and your Overtrigger. These are going to be your money makers, guys. These are going to be the ones you want to pick up on TCG Player right now, because everything else I just showed you is just kind of like chump change, like cents. This shouldn't even register. Like, it's the kind of money you're going to be spending on this, you know, joking. But you know, this is actually, I've seen this go up in price. This was actually sitting at about $10 the other day, maybe 2 or 3 days ago. All of a sudden I looked this morning right before I started recording this, and this has jumped up to about $15. So already it's jumped $5 in price. Even Knight of War Fasado has jumped about $2 to $3 because he was sitting around like maybe $11, $12. Now he's like sitting right there at that $15 mark. And Alden was going around, I think around 13, and now he has jumped to about 15. And the supply right now is not meeting the demand because of delays in the product getting out to people we have seen. And so don't freak out too bad, guys, if you're like, oh god, that's really expensive. I think once more product is shipped and once the market stabilizes itself, there's still going to be stable cards, but I think they're going to come down in price. I hope. They're worthy. I think they're worthy of like the $15 because like they're just really good. Most staples we always see in Vanguard start hitting around that $15 mark or better. So like I'm not really surprised by those numbers. Let's also, don't forget, let's pull up real quick. I want to go back over here. Also, one thing you do want to pick up is going to be your perfect, or not perfect guard, your PG. If I can find the PG real quick. I almost completely forgot about it. It's in the rares, so I do apologize, guys. Just stay with me 1 second. Maybe it's a Divine Sister, maybe? I don't remember which one it was. It's obviously, oh wait a minute, there is one that says Sentinel. Duh. No, go back. Oh my god, this is terrible. We're going to probably edit this out. Anyway, but another fair mention is going to be our PGs. So this is going to be different. Even though the starter decks do give us PGs, I'm really not the biggest fan of this card's art, but it still does what it does. But anyway, the new ability on the PGs now say that when this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, choose one of your units and it cannot be hit until in the battle. Typical stuff there. But this is where the new part comes in. If your hand has 2 or more cards, choose a card from your hand, discard it. So what this means is basically if you're holding this and another PG, you don't have to discard for it. You can just automatically PG them, and that feels pretty good because that can definitely help win you games. Whereas before we'd be like, oh god, I gotta get rid of a PG to play a PG, or only got this one card left in hand, and that's some other shield value, and puts you in a bad spot. But they kind of like rectified that and gave us a little bit of an out in this, and the fact that now if it only, you know, if you have 2 or more, then you have to discard. I'm a huge fan of that. I'm glad that they did that to PGs, and it helps, like I said, give us a new out or way to defend ourselves when the game is tight and it's really coming down to the wire whether or not you're going to win or lose, and you know, you've dished out a lot of shield to try to protect yourself from those big turns. So yeah, again, this card's not really that expensive either. It is a rare. You can get it in a higher rarity, obviously it says right here. So if you're curious of the higher rarities, you can check it out here on the Wikia page, or check it out on TCG Player. All the listings are there. But for just this rare version, it's like $3 to $4. I'm okay with that for PG. So that means for a playset, you're going to be looking at anywhere between like $12 to $16 for a playset, and that's perfectly reasonable in my opinion, because you've already got your money makers here. You know, you've got Alden, you've got Fasado, and then you got your over trigger. That's going to be your money for the deck right now with just set 1. That's going to be where all your money lies. Maybe if you want to flesh out and bling out your bastions, you can do that. But that's just my opinion, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you were able to take something away from this. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, guys, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and please feel free to leave some feedback down in the description below. If there's anything you'd like me to see or do, or you would like to see or have me do to these deck profiles in the future to make them more user friendly, or if there's any information I could have provided that maybe I missed out on, just let me know. And until next time, guys, please stay strong, stay healthy, and as always, happy gaming.